What's up guys, Rogue9 here. There have been a bunch of rumors flying around that shotguns in Rainbow Six Siege feel more powerful or more reliable in gunfights recently. Are these impressions that players are getting based on anything that has changed in the game? If there is anything making the guns more powerful, what could it be? Time for a little detective work. Follow me. So let's start out by brainstorming a little. What could be the possible causes for shotguns performing better as of late? There was no news of changes in any of the patch notes for Ember Rise, or any other season before for that matter, so it's unlikely that there was any change to the damage stats or the damage drop-off curves. Unlikely doesn't mean impossible though. Besides more damage per pellet at various distances, another factor could be that the spread has tightened up and now delivers more pellets on target at greater distances. And when exploring spread, we should of course look at both the hipfire spread and the aim down sight spreads for each gun, since they are different of course. In case you didn't know, yes, aiming down sights tightens up the shotgun spread in Rainbow Six Siege. Why is this a thing? Your guess is as good as mine, because of course in real life, raising the gun to your shoulder will in fact not magically change the trajectory of the gun's pellets. If there is anything different with the shotguns, it has to be either the damage or the spread as far as I'm concerned, so let's look at these topics one at a time. And before we get into those details, if there are any aspiring content creators among you, today's sponsor may be particularly interesting for you. Earlier this year, Wondershare released the 9th iteration of their video editing program Filmora called, you guessed it, Filmora 9. This software is really intuitive and easy to pick up, but at the same time offers you some really powerful editing resources. I really like the split screen function that just makes it so easy to arrange different videos in parallel. Just pick a layout, drop in your clips, and you're done. Besides this, you also have extensive libraries for effects, transitions, titles, and more. If you need any additional effects, audio, or stock media for your editing projects, then you can find royalty-free expansion packs at filmstocks.com. These packs will plug straight into Filmora 9 and make it really easy to lift the production quality of your projects to new heights. So if you are looking to boost your video editing game, download Filmora 9 now for free using the link in the description below. Shotgun damage is a complex subject in Rainbow Six Siege. Damage ranges from 27 hit points for each of the 8 pellets up to 70 HP, which makes this weapon class immensely powerful overall, but also means that there is a huge difference between the weakest and the strongest representatives. Single shot damage starts at the low end from 120 for the Bailiff and 216 for the ACS-12 and goes all the way to 560 hit points for the ITA-12S. In theory, there are 5 shotguns in the game that can put out enough pain in a single shot to take down up to 4 opponents, as long as they're standing close enough together and you are lucky enough to get 2 of your pellets to hit the upper body or head of each of them. Achieving this in any given match is just about as unlikely as falling from 10,160 meters altitude without a parachute and surviving. It's not impossible, but rather unlikely. The crazy close-range power of the shotguns is balanced out with steep and sometimes rather complex damage drop-off curves that can start as early as 2 meters distance. Pretty much every individual shotgun has its own curve, there's no standardization at all, and the curves can even include plateaus at certain ranges. So how do we now make sure that there have not been any changes that have flown under the radar? The easiest check is to look at the in-game damage stats, and none of those have been updated. Manually testing the damage that individual pellets do at various ranges is super tedious, but I went ahead and spent quite a chunk of time looking into this. I have to admit, spending hours upon hours on gathering data to see if something has changed, only to find out that no, everything is still the same, is a little bit of a letdown, but a result is still a result. I can confirm, no change to the damage stats of the shotguns. Okay, if they're not more powerful, then surely there has to be some kind of change to the spread, and how do we confirm that? Well, one way is to look at the Hipfire Indicators. Easy process, just take screenshots with each gun and then use a graphics program to count the circumference of the circles in pixels. Once again, there has been no change in the most recent patch, but maybe the hipfire cones are no longer accurate. This can be tested by hip-firing at a wall over and over until the impacts form a perfect circle that shows us the circumference. Once again, no obvious change. The impact circles for each gun still perfectly correspond to the hipfire markings, and they are definitely unchanged. The last possibility I see is that maybe the aim down sight spreads have changed. Again, the method of testing is to shoot at a particular wall until the impacts form a nice circle and then compare the diameter to the old data I have from tests in the past. Once again, this is super tedious, but I guess someone has to do it, right? Nevertheless, I will give you 3 guesses what the results were. Yep, the least satisfying outcome of them all, nothing has changed. So if it's not the damage, or the damage drop-off, or the hipfire spread, or the ADS spread, does that mean that all of these anecdotal reports flying around claiming that shotguns have become more powerful in gunfights are wrong? Well, there is one last possibility. With all the subtle behind-the-scenes changes going into Siege recently, changing how the animations work, maybe, just maybe, there was some kind of shift in how the randomization engine works, and each individual shot now has more pellets that land towards the center of the cone compared to before. In theory, the max spread could still be the same, but if the randomization within the spread circle is now more reliable, it could allow you to land more pellets on target over greater distances than before. The change would be subtle, but maybe just enough to give people the feeling that shotguns are now more reliable. To confirm this, I compared the patterns of individual shots side by side, and lo and behold, eureka! If we compare the shot patterns pre and post patch, it really becomes evident that there really does seem to be a difference in the random patterning, and that since the launch of Ember Rise, more pellets will tend to land closer to the center of the max spread diameter than they did before. Of course, I can already hear some of you typing in the comments section that this is not actually proof at all. The shotgun patterning is meant to be random after all, and so it could be possible that it is just a lucky coincidence that the patterns for the new season are just that little bit better than they used to be. It would be amazing if I could go back to the old Phantom Sight build and just run, let's say, another 100 or 1,000 more trials to see if the patterning improvement occurs in a statistically significant percentage of the trials, but now that the new season is out, I can no longer do that. So after all of the testing and analysis I put in, I decided to do something I probably should have started out with. I reached out to the devs to see if they have any info on what could have changed with the shotguns, and huzzah! My conclusion actually turned out to be correct. One of the little behind-the-scenes updates in the game has changed the patterning of the shotguns, and even though none of the hard parameters, such as damage or max spread, have been changed, you may find that going forward, shotguns will feel just that little bit more reliable because more pellets will land nearer to your point of aim. Phew, and there we go. Testing shotguns is always a minor nightmare since their random nature makes it just so much more tedious to get to the bottom of various facets of their complex nature. If you appreciate the efforts I put in to get to the bottom of this matter, then do feel free to leave me a thumbs up, and with that, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next episode.